I started to see an increased number of fields showing the symptoms of the disease known as charcoal rot. This disease is favored by drought stress, soil compaction, and heat stress. And most of the time, the growers tend to not report the occurrence of the disease in the field because they tend to associate that the damage that they're seeing in the field is due to this very extreme weather conditions. However, it's very important for us to know which fields are having the symptoms of the disease because it's going to help us to guide the growers regarding the selection of varieties and regarding the crop rotation if we have this disease presence in the field. So here I have an example of a disease that's showing symptoms of charcoal rot. So I pull up some samples from the most affected area in the field. And one way to diagnose the disease in the field is that close to the base of the stem, if you open up, we can see the presence of very small black dots in the stem, inside the stem and also in the outside part. Another disease that starts to show up in some fields in the central part of Oklahoma is the disease known as SDS. So the pathogen that causes the disease infects the root system very early on in the growing season, most of the time when the soybean is planted under cool and wet conditions. So fields that were planted in beginning of May or in the first 2 weeks of May are more prone to develop this disease. Consider that we had a spring here in the state that was more cooler and wetter than usual. So here I have some plants that I collected in a field that is affected by SDS. And what I'd like to emphasize here is that the growers can use a knife pocket to open up the stem close to the roots, and they are going to see discoloration in that stem close to the taproot and also a brown color. And what I need to emphasize here is that this discoloration or this more dark color is present just in the stem close to the taproot. But when we go upper, we see that the stem is actually healthy. But the symptoms that we are seeing here in the upper canopy, in the leaves, is caused by the toxin that's produced by the fungi. The fungi is not present here in the leaves. This is just a secondary effect of the infection by the pathogen in the root system. So the disease starts by this yellow spotting among the leaf veins that remain green. And as this disease is progressing from this yellow spotting, we start to see this more necrotic tissue among the leaf veins that remain green. So this is a very characteristic symptoms of SDS in the field. Another disease that I start to observe in the soybean fields here in Oklahoma after the last rains that we got in the beginning of August is Cercospora leaf blight. Is that we see in the upper canopy of the soybean plants the occurrence with this bronze color in the leaves that sometimes can be more like a dark browns or light browns, and sometimes these lesions can also become purple. There are some options available to manage all diseases in the field, and the first one and most important is to choose a soybean variety that presents some level of resistance to charcoal rot, for SDS or for Cercospora leaf blight. And another option is crop rotation. Choose crops such as small grains or wheat where the pathogen is not going to multiply in these crops, it's going to decrease the inoculum that we have in the soil.